interview tips I've used to help people get offers from JLR, Amazon, and HSBC. In this video, I'm going to go through 5 interview tips that I've used to help people get degree apprenticeship offers from companies like JLR, Amazon, HSBC, exactly what it says on the tin. Just before we get started, why should you trust me? Let me introduce myself. My name's Owen, and I help people get degree apprenticeships in the engineering, technology, and finance industries. Here are some of the people I helped last year, got them degree apprenticeship offers from companies like JLR, HSBC, Rolls-Royce, KPMG, and Amazon, just to name a few. One of the things I was doing was mock interviews with them and interview coaching. And what I can do in these is I can basically provide sort of real questions which you can learn how to answer, do model answers, also look at your interview skill, improve your confidence, help you with that sort of thing, give you like a feedback, give you marks. If you're interested in that sort of thing and you just want to, in general, you're interested in getting your dream degree apprenticeship offer, you want to level up your interview skills, you want to get better at applications, better at group exercises, then I do have a program. It's going to be the first link in the description. We've had some insane results, as you can see on the previous slide and on this one. But don't worry about that now. I'm going to get into that later. Without further ado, let's begin with this video. Interview tips I've used to help people get offers from JLR, Amazon, and HSBC. So why do you need to be good at interviews? I'm going to keep this simple. Every single degree apprenticeship application process is going to end with an interview. Okay, in the last stage, you're going to have to do an interview. If you don't impress in that interview, you're not going to get the job. Okay, so that's why I'm filming this video, because it's super important for you guys to make sure you're good at interviews, you're confident with interviews. Okay, because if you don't impress in the interview, it's the final stage, you're not going to get the job. You have to be bang on with your interviews to get degree apprenticeship offers. Okay, so that's why this is important. So let's move on to the first interview tip. Take your time before answering. Okay, so in all the mock interviews I've been doing, this is the #1 mistake I see. Okay, and it's people rushing to answer. So I asked them an unexpected question. You're going to get unexpected questions in your interviews. The moment they hit the question, the moment the interviewer stops talking, they just start talking straight away, like literally a 0.5 second gap. They just start talking. The problem with this is it means they haven't thought about their answer properly. And what usually happens is the same for everyone. They start talking and then they get into it and they forget what they're saying, or they get lost, or they run out of things to say, or they don't know what's going on. Or they're literally, I've had it where people are like 1 minute into the answer, they've randomly started talking about some random thing, like completely just nothing to do with anything. They literally stop and ask me for the question again because they just rushed into it. Okay, and I get it. People are nervous, right? And you want to make sure you give an answer, right? But it's like people, you getting overexcited. Okay? Take your time before answering. Okay, so this is the protocol. Okay? And this is absolutely fine. And this protocol will literally give you 10 seconds, 15 seconds of thinking time before answering. And that's what you need. When you get a difficult question, an unexpected question, if you just rush straight into it, like the moment the interviewer ends the question, you're talking, you're not going to have time to think of a good answer. Your answer's not going to be very good. You're going to forget what you're saying. You're going to run out of things to say. You're not going to know what's going on. If you give yourself 10 to 15 seconds to think about it, you can get a really good answer, which is really going to impress the interviewer. So this is the protocol. When they finish the question, step 1, pause. Okay, pause, and importantly, take a breath. Okay, and that take a breath is important because it's going to relax you. It's also going to mean if you're taking a breath, you can't be talking, right? So literally just pause. This can just be 5 seconds. It can be they ask the question. And that's step 1. Okay, that's step 1. Literally just chill out for 5 seconds, thinking in your head, right? So how should I answer this? That can be about 5 seconds. Then step 2, this is all buying yourself more time to think about it. Just repeat the question slowly out loud. Okay, so let's say the question let's say the question is, what is your biggest weakness? Okay, rather than what is your biggest weakness. So when I sometimes do my essays, I add it and then you don't know what you're saying. Instead it's, so what is your biggest weakness? So my biggest weakness would be my tendency to basically do things too much. Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, step 1, pause, take a breath. Step 2, sort of repeat the question slowly out loud. Whatever question you can do this with. Okay, tell me about a time you worked in a team. Step 1, pause. So a time I worked in a team was basically when I was on my Duke of Edinburgh and I had to do the expedition. That is it. Okay, do that for every single question. Train yourself as you're practicing interviews. Do this, and it means you're not going to rush into it. You're going to have like fully structured, good answers that you've thought about. Step 1 and 2. Then step 3 is just a sort of contingency. If you do that, so you pause 5 seconds, repeat the question slowly, 7 seconds or whatever, you still don't know, no problem. Just ask for the question again. I did it all the time in my interviews. Okay, you don't get marked down for it. It's just interview, be like, no problem. Repeat the question. Congratulations, you've just doubled the amount of time you have to think. Okay, ask the question, no problem. Take your time. That is like the secret to having a really good answer when you get an unexpected question. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Learn the common questions, okay? Because the same questions do come up again and again. Of course, you're going to get unexpected questions, which is why you need to be able to learn this protocol of like taking your time, fully thinking about it. But like probably 3/4, 2/3 of questions are just the same ones again and again. Okay, and there's three main types. There's general types, just like, why do you want to work here? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Talk me through your CV. Why do you want to do a degree apprenticeship rather than going to university? Something like that. Those ones are all you can just prepare in advance, have a think about what you're going to say. Okay, absolutely fine. The next type of star questions, okay? And these are questions to do with, tell me about a time when, and then a scenario. So tell me about a time when you've worked as a team. Tell me about a time when you've been a leader. Tell me about a time when you've solved a problem. Tell me about a time when you've faced a challenge. Okay, and you have to think about situations where you've done these things. Okay, and it's about pulling together these scenarios in your head. So tell me about a time when you've worked in a team. As you go into your interview, make sure you know a scenario. When have you worked in a team? Oh, it's in this football match where we did like the cup final and we had to work as a team and do tactics and this sort of thing. When were you a leader? So I was a leader on DFE when I had to like lead the expedition through a storm. When have you solved a problem? So I did like the maths Olympiad and I had to solve this problem. Okay. Think about these star questions. Tell me about a time when you had to show integrity. Tell me about a time when you saw a health and safety issue. Right? Tell me about a time you had to speak up against someone. Right? Think about these scenarios. You can go in preparing it for those star questions. And the final one is sort of these hypothetical scenario questions. Like, what would you do if? Okay? What would you do if you worked with a member of the team who was difficult? Okay? What would you do if you were working on something and then suddenly the priorities changed? Have a think about these common questions, and by basically like thinking about the answers to these common questions in advance, it means when these questions come up, you're going to be able to answer them easily. It's going to give you a confidence boost. It's really going to help you in the interview. Okay, so these common questions, trust me, they come up again and again. Once you end up doing all these degree apprenticeship interviews, you'll be like, wow, can we have some original questions, please? Because it's sort of just the same ones for like 2/3, 75% of it. Okay, so have a think about answers and getting your answers ready to those common questions. Now, this is an interesting one. So, this is a new interview meta for 2024, okay? And this is follow-up questions, okay? So follow-up questions in the application process for 2024, when I've been helping people, they have been king, okay? From what I've been hearing from companies, they have been king. You need to make sure you're practicing follow-up questions. Okay, what's a follow-up question? So, example, let's say the main question is, tell me about a time when you were a leader. This is a very common question. If you remember rightly, that will be like a star sort of question. Tell me about a time when. Tell me about a time when you were a leader. Can you give your answer? So, time when I was a leader was on DFE and we got lost and we were in a storm and I had to calm down the group. I had to talk to everyone and say we're going to be all right. I had to decide what our plan of action was. I also had to make sure I was following the procedures and contact our like DFE leaders. And then I safely brought everyone off the mountain, making sure everyone was okay. Okay, that's the main part of it. This is where the follow-up questions come in. Okay, and in 2024, so many companies have been doing these follow-up questions. Almost every single question like this has come with follow-up questions. You need to make sure, and it's going to be similar for 2025. You need to make sure you know how to answer them. First kind of follow-up question you can get is, why did you feel it was important to take the action you did? Okay, I thought it was important to calm everyone down because I think that, and listen to everyone's opinion, because I think that collaboration is really important and listening to everyone's viewpoints. And I didn't want to just suddenly take charge and say, right, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. I wanted to include everyone because I think that's how you work most effectively within a team. I also made sure that I contacted our group leaders to tell them that we were doing an evacuation off the mountain because this was the procedure. One of the things I like about myself, that was a weird way of saying it, is my integrity, and I always follow rules, and I will do in this degree apprenticeship for whatever company I'm working for. So that's why I thought it was important to follow the protocol, even though it took a bit of time to reach them with a satellite phone. That was the protocol to contact the group leaders, so I made sure I did. Okay, that's the kind of thing you need to be ready to do, is answer those follow-up questions. Here's another type of follow-up questions you get. How did others react to your actions? So when I started including other people in my discussion, asking for their opinion, what should we do in this situation? How should we come off the mountain? They felt very included and they were responding very positively to these actions. I think this style of leadership is very conducive to team working because I think it is helpful to include people, like something like that. Right? Those are the kind of questions. I've given you some examples there, just thinking on the top of my head what I'd say. That's how you want to be answering those follow-up questions. Okay, and if you don't ever practice a follow-up question, then you're going to get a bit stumped when one of these follow-up questions comes up. Okay, so this is another tip. This is the new interview meta, which they're going to be continuing for 2025, is doing follow-up questions after every single thing. Because it's sort of testing, do you actually know what you're talking about? Because they've sort of caught on, right, that they all use the same questions. Everyone is prepared for the tell me about a time when you're a leader. Everyone's prepared for the tell me about a time when you work as a team. Like, they've sort of caught on. Everyone knows how to answer those questions, no problem, right? So this is where they're trying to test you a bit more. They're saying, okay, everyone knows these, but do you know follow-up questions? Do you actually know in depth about the scenario? Okay, do you know how to explain the scenario and link to your skills and link to values in a bit more detail? Okay, so that's new interview meta. Make sure you're practicing those follow-up questions. Move on to the next one. So build rapport with the interviewer. A lot of people are nervous for interviews. I get it, right? You've probably never done an interview before, or like a serious interview for a job like this important, like this one, right? So a lot of people are nervous. So any way you can reduce nerves is just perfect, okay? Building rapport with the interviewer, it's a win-win because it's the easiest way to reduce nerves, and also it's going to make the interviewer like you more, okay? Because when you build rapport with the interviewer, it turns it from feeling like an interrogation to a conversation. That's what it can feel like when you're in these interviews. You're a bit nervous. It's like they're interrogating you, like, why do you want to work for the company? What are your strengths? What are your skills? Why would you be a good candidate? Right? What have you done? What have you done? Da, da, da. It feels like a bit of an interrogation. When you build rapport, it turns it into a conversation. Okay, it's gonna like calm you. Like, imagine you just had like your friend was asking you some questions, right? That's easy. Just imagine that your friend asking you questions. You're not gonna be nervous. That's what it's like when you build rapport. It changes it from this person being the big scary job employee person who like you want them to hire you, to just like some friendly person, colleague sort of thing. They're just asking you some questions and makes it a conversation. Okay, and also it means they're going to like you more. When you build rapport, they're going to be like, you know what, this guy's actually quite a nice guy. He'd actually fit well in my office. He'd fit well in my team. He's got a bit of banter about him. You know what, let me actually hire him. Compared to someone who's just sat there all nervous and like a stick and like not really and just kind of socially awkward. They can be like, do I really want this guy in my team in my office? Probably not, right? You can implement this in almost every interview. Okay, so how do you implement this like thing? How do you build rapport with the interviewer? It's just about just talking to them at the start of your interview, just having a bit of like small talk. Okay, so I'll give you one example. One of my interviews, I had a music stand in the background. The interviewer asked me, oh, is that a music stand? And I was like, oh yeah, how did you know? Do you play an instrument? And then he started talking about how he played the trumpet, and then we had to talk about that because I played the trumpet, and then we just talked about like the different bands we'd played in and stuff. Okay? And it's just anywhere where you can just ask them a sort of off-topic question. Now, this won't be for everyone, okay? This tip won't be for everyone. There's some people who's like, no, I want to keep it professional. That's a bit weird. But if you want to use this tactic, I recommend it. I personally think it's fine using this tactic. So, it's, for example, say they join a bit late. Okay, your interviewer joins a bit late to your thing. And he's like, oh, sorry, I just joined a bit late because the last interview overran. You'd be like, oh, no problem. How many interviews have you done so far? Oh, yeah, so I've done 4. And you're like, wow, you've done 4 already. How many you got for the rest of the day? Oh, you've only got 2 more. That's good. Okay, so you're gonna get home in time for the football then? And they're like, oh yeah, so it's the Euros on site. Oh, so you support a football team, do you? Oh, is it Man United? Right. Do you know what I mean? It's not for everyone. Some people aren't gonna like that. You're a bit too conversational, a bit too small talky. But it's like the moment you do that, once you do that sort of thing with the interviewer, game changing, because then it goes from an interrogation, it feeling like an interrogation, go from you being really nervous to it's literally like you're a friend, your conversation. Okay, so it's not for everyone, but if you can build that rapport, it's going to be the easiest way to reduce your nerves. Okay, let's move on to this final tip. Have copies of your CV around you. This is massive. Okay, I've seen it. Too many people go completely blank when a difficult question comes up. Okay, a difficult question comes up. They do the thinking thing I mentioned at the start, and then even then, they still can't think of anything to say. Okay, this is where having copies of your CV is super important, okay? And you can have them ready. So if it's virtual, you can literally stick your CV to the wall behind your webcam. So this is like the webcam here. I used to stick my CV like on the wall there. And it meant if there's a difficult question and I can't think of anything, I just look up CV, give me a bit of inspiration, answer the question. I've had recruiters tell me literally do this. Like, they don't have a problem with you doing this, sticking up your CV to your wall. If it's in person, obviously you're not going to be able to stick it up to the wall. Just bring a copy with your CV, put it on the table, absolutely fine. The in-person, like a lot of interviews these days are virtual, but if it is in person, that's no problem. An in-person interview I had, I just brought my CV, sat down at the table with the 2 interviews and just put my CV in front of me. No problem, interview is absolutely fine with that. And what it means is if there's a difficult question, you can sort of glance down at it. Okay, so if you get a weird question like, Tell me about a time when you've had to work with a difficult colleague, but you managed to get around it. Now, that's a very specific question. You probably can't think of anything. That's where you can just glance up at your CV, be like, hey, when would I have had to work with a difficult colleague? Okay, let me look through my CV. Let me look through the things I've done. Oh, okay, I did DAV, probably not. Football team. Oh yeah, there was this football team thing 2 years ago where I was with this captain, and basically right, that's how you can do it, and that's inspiration. If you didn't have that copy of like your CV, your application, your cover letter, whatever it is, you sort of be like trying to go through your mind, okay, how do I answer? How do I answer? It's going to give you that inspiration. Okay, so this one is massive because a lot of people don't think of this. I think in person you can't do that, virtually can't do that. No problem. Stick your CV, print it off, put it on the table in front of you, put it on the wall behind you. In person, put it on the table in front of you, and it's going to give you that inspiration during the interview. Okay, so there we are. That's the final interview tip that I'm going to give you today. Now just moving on to a quick plug just to end off this video. So as I said, last year I helped a whole bunch of people get degree apprenticeship offers from some of these companies you might be interested in if you're interested in engineering, technology and finance, like JLR, KPMG, HSBC. For example, we had some insane results. So if you want help to get your dream degree apprenticeship offer, including things like interview coaching and how to do well in interviews, real interview questions, that sort of thing, mock group exercises, then go and click the first link in the description because that's where I'm going to be helping people specifically for September 2025 in the engineering, technology and finance industries for degree apprentices. We've had some insane results. If you're interested and you're serious about getting into a degree apprenticeship, go and click the first link in the description. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.